Well, hello and welcome to episode number 490 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this special February the 14th Valentine's Day episode, we've got a private jet villa. We look at Istanbul's 5 runways, an appearance from President Biden, and at long last, we've got another Ryanair story, as they've been a bit quiet as of late. In the military news this week, we talk about the new AppleTV miniseries, Masters of the Air, a helicopter crash, and F-16s in the Ukraine. So joining me over in the PTUK Master Suite studios, and hopefully it's cooler in there than it currently is in here. I've just turned the heating down because it's blooming boiling in here. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Hello. I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Good. Now, Matt, I have a special request. Could you come and see me tomorrow at work? Because I have a very special piece of Switzerland that I brought back for you.
Unless it's deep fried and or covered in chocolate, I'm not interested.
Second part of that was correct.
Happy days. Wedding. Yes, okay, sir. Yes, I shall. 1 o'clock, all right? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, lovely.
Usual
Good, jolly
time.
good. Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good, yeah.
Good to see you, Matt. And also joining us this week, he's back from yet another hugely busy week, flying literally millions of miles across Europe on various aircraft, but always in seat 1A. It's Neville Bounds.
It was, but it was only about 330 nautical miles each way to Belfast City Airport and back this week. Great city, Belfast. I do love that place a lot. So Sue and I are going to go back there again in a couple of months' time, actually. But no, it's just for work on this occasion. But as usual, I just saw the office, the hotel, and the airport. That was about it.
Oh, how very exciting! You
How
had to spoil yourself, don't you?
Any rants this week?
A minor rant on the way out. I think the BA ground staff could have done a better job of not forcing the 80-year-old fella, who clearly doesn't fly very often, to check in his very small, soft wheelie bag. Completely unnecessary, in my view. So I had a word.
Did you?
Good.
With them on the gate. I just thought that was a bit poor. But of course, as one of our other guests will know, Belfast City Airport can be a bit windy at times, and there's only 6,000 foot of runway to play with, so you can't muck about over there. And our skipper just touched it down beautifully gently, but then probably realised, oh, I should have been on auto brakes max, and everything fell to the front of the aircraft at that point. But we didn't do what Carlos and I did in Jersey that time, which was the smell of very hot brakes as well, I seem to recall.
I thought you were going to say he touched down and then bounced. He did a pip, basically, and bounced his way down the runway. That's what I thought.
We got it stopped here.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Well, I'm glad you had a good trip, Nev. Good to have you back on terra firma.
Thank you.
Armando isn't with us. Well, he might be with us this week. We're not sure yet. He was due to be with us this evening, but he had a bit of a delay on his return flight. So he hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be with us before the end of the show.
He is here briefly in video form.
In video form, he is here, as well. Nick is with us, lurking around in the background. So we're going to say hello to our two-wheeled lover of all things motorcycle-based, Nick Codling. Hello.
Oh, evening. How are you? It's I just thought I'd come and have our
poke the bear
celebration of love of aviation this evening for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
how romantic!
I know.
Oh,
good to see you, Nick. We've got a super sub back with us this week. He's been on the show a million times. And,
don't say it like that.
Listen, hold on, I haven't finished yet. He's been on the show a million times. And that could be, it could increase even more in the future. More on that possibly in the future, very soon. It is, of course, our aficionado of all things Airbus. It's, of course, Captain Andy.
Hello. I'm back again. And I didn't have the same issues that Nev's captain had. I landed there a few hours after Nev, and my landing was beautifully and smooth and no massive braking required. It was very windy, though.
You only had 10 passengers on board, Andy.
No, it was pretty chock, but I didn't go anywhere near. My flight was only 193 miles compared to Nev's. Pretty quick. It took us 35 minutes, I think, airborne.
Oh,
Not bad.
Blimey, that's very efficient. Is that because of the wind? Was it in your favour?
No, it was a headwind on the way there.
Okay.
The flight back was even quicker.
Wow.
Do
Frightening
you even get a
stuff.
chance to go above sort of 15,000 feet with that kind of flight?
We went up to flight level 190 on the way over.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to say I knew what that meant, but
19,000 feet, roughly.
okay, right, fair enough. Why is it called that, though?
Take
Just
a
out of
peek.
curiosity, what does that mean?
What, flight level?
Yeah.
Because everywhere's at a different... Now we're just going off on a tangent now.
Yeah,
because sea level pressures everywhere is different at various points of the day. You could take off when the pressure's 1,000 millibars, and where you're going it's 1,015. You'd all be flying at different levels on your altimeter, so they use a standard setting of 1013 hectopascals or 2992 millibars or whatever inches of mercury.
Okay.
But
And-
above a certain level, it's a flight level. Anyway,
And that's like agreed across the floor,
The world.
basically, the entire world. Okay, right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I know, but I don't know these things. This is why I like to ask these questions.
Apart from
It's good.
China and Russia, where it's in meters, not feet.
Oh.
That's another story.
That's another conversation. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
We all need to learn, Matt. We all need to learn.
Yes.
But thanks for
say-
having me again.
Yes, it's good to see you, Andy. And yeah, we'll hear about your adventures hopefully later on in the show as to what you've been up to, because you've had a busy week as well. Going to say good evening to all the chat room who's joined us tonight. A few faces in there bright and early as always. Going to say hello to Mazoos, our local listener Mazoos. Good to see you in there. We've got Alan. Hello, Alan White. Good to see Alan in there as well. We've got Richard Adams. Hello to Richard Adams. He's got a pint glass on the icon near his name's there in the chat. So hopefully he's having
Always.
a beer. Hobby Time. Hello to you as well, Hobby Time. Owen. We haven't seen Owen in there for ages. Good to see you in there, Owen. Across the pond there as such. Nana's in there as well. Hello to you. Good evening, everyone, she says. Thanks, Nana. Chris Marsh. Hello to you as well, Chris. Dirk is in there. Wouldn't be a show without having Dirk in the chat room, would it? Hello,
Quite
Dirk.
right, absolutely.
We've got Ian is also in there. Good to see you, Ian. Mark Priestley, hello to you, Mark. Noticing the glasses there at the beginning of the show. Well done. Pilot Pip, hello to you. He's in Lisbon, joining us from Lisbon.
As you
hello,
do.
Pip. Richard E. Flagg, good to see you in there as well, Richard. In the chat room. Daniel, hello Daniel from California, Northern California.
Oh, hello.
Daniel's in. Hello to you.
That's exciting.
I know we're all across the globe. We are here. John Jester, one of our regular guests on the show. John
Legend.
Jester's in there as well. Good to see you in there. Hopefully it's not 3 a.m. when you are, John.
Probably. Yeah.
Don't forget, if you're listening to our beautiful voices on the audio show and you want to see what we all look like, because, I mean, we're all stunning.
Don't do
fellas,
it.
really. Look back for us on YouTube. Just search for Plain Talking UK on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and bell icon to be notified when Matt is clicking the go live button on the system. Because we'd love to have you in the chat room. So we've got loads to get through this week. Tons of news stories to get through this week on the show. So if all the glorious team are ready, shall we start?
Oh, yes, why not? Let's give it a go, shall we? Let's hit that button, see what happens. There it goes.
Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So, first story in the commercial news segment this week. And I think it's a subject that we've touched on previously on the show over here in the UK, but this one's over in the US. Comes from aerotime.aero, and President Biden goes on X, as we all know it, Twitter, to demand US airlines provide fee-free family seating. US President Joe Biden has stepped up pressure on US airline industry to offer families traveling to be able to book seats on commercial airliners without having to pay additional fees to sit together. The president took to his official X account, formerly known as Twitter, calling on all airlines to offer free fee-free. God, can you imagine saying that after a few beers, Andy? Fee-free family seating when booked on flights with the US carriers. He said you ought to be able to fly with your child and sit next to them without paying additional fees, he wrote on the post, which appeared on X on February the 5th. This latest salvo isn't the first time the president has become involved in the issue, which is being interpreted by some to be a small but important part of his early drive to appeal to the electorate before the upcoming US elections in November this year. The election is almost certainly to be a rerun of the 2020 vote, which saw Biden go head-to-head with Donald Trump. Biden told airlines in the US to stop charging travellers additional charges to book their seats together when flying with children. And back in March 2023, the president unveiled a new family seating dashboard via the US Department of Transport, the DOT website, that shows consumers which airlines offer fee-free family seating and which don't. The dashboard, which you can find, is shown in an easy-to-read format and indicates which US airlines ensure that travellers under 13 can sit next to their parents or adult travel companion at no extra fee. According to the DOT family seating dashboard at the time of writing the story, Alaska Airlines, American Airlines, Frontier Airlines and JetBlue all ensure that travellers under 13 can sit next to their parents or adult travel companion for no additional fee. Allegiant, Delta, Hawaiian, Southwest, Spirit and United Airlines all charge some form of family seating fee, although the applicable ages and charges differ between the carriers' policies. Some airlines, such as United, had already made some adjustments to their policies before the March 2023 announcement. The changes implemented by United made it easier for families travelling with children under the age of 12 to find and select multiple seats together during the booking process. However, the DOT dashboard uses the strict under 13 guideline. Frontier Airlines also changed its policy back in February last year, ensuring that children under a certain age will also and always be paired with at least one family member when flying. Following in September 2023 last year, JetBlue followed suit by making subtle changes to its family seating policy. And the US Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, submitted a bill back in early 2023 to make it mandatory that airlines do not charge family seating fees for children under 13 years and younger. The bill has yet to be passed. Now, Andy, you have young kids, and obviously you fly.
Yes.
Is this an issue you've seen, faced?
Yes, in the UK. I'm going on holiday this Saturday, and with Jet2, I've had to pay for seats to ensure that all three of us sit together. I wouldn't mind letting her sit somewhere else, but she's only 5. She'll annoy some people.
Yeah, that could be tricky.
But he's got a point here. There shouldn't be fees for you to sit together as a family. That your children don't have the choice to be sat anywhere else. So what? It's just a revenue stream, really. Bit of a cheeky one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do get why, they do it that way. But at the same time, as you say, there should be more exceptions, I think, available.
Yeah, I get it for big groups of people who don't want to pay, and then they get spread around the aircraft and complain. Well, tough, that's your problem. But for families, it should be a given, really.
You think an average flight, one of your aircraft that you pilot, Andy, 179, 189?
That's 186 on the 20, and it's 200 plus on the 21s.
Yeah, so you've probably got at least over a half of the aircraft is probably made up of families.
Yes, but it depends on the destination as well. Yeah, if you're going to, especially in the summer, bucket and spade destinations, the plane's full of families.
Yeah, so it's not a bad way for airlines to ramp up their.
And we do find quite often that we get to the point just before the doors close where the cabin crew saying, "Look, we're just trying to move people around here to get families sat together." So all airlines do it, and I think it should just be a given, really, that families should be able to sit together.
Yeah. So, Nev, you've got the next story, and this is right up your alley, I think. I can see why Nick has chosen this story for you.
Well, I was wondering, actually, when I was looking at it, whether this is something which might turn up in your back garden.
Yeah.
It's on simpleflying.com. and it says, have you ever dreamed of staying in a hotel on a beautiful tropical island, unlike anything you've ever experienced? If so, you might be interested in the private jet villa in Uluwatu on the Phuket Peninsula of Bali in Indonesia. The private jet villa is the world's first luxury hotel constructed in what was once a Boeing 737-200. Nestled high up on a cliff, nearly 500 feet above the Indian Ocean, the luxurious private jet villa and its 2 sumptuous suites with ensuite can accommodate a maximum of 4 people. 33-year-old Russian entrepreneur and extreme sports athlete Felix Demin created the private jet villa concept in 2020 after having already created the bubble hotel chain and a private villa construction company called Bali Investments. The 737-200 used to belong to Mandal Airlines, and in 2014, low-cost Indonesian carrier Mandala Airlines went into liquidation and had all its assets sold to the highest bidders. The now 41-year-old plane with the registration Papa Kilo Romeo India India was bought by an Australian who had planned to turn it into a nightclub. The vision, however, never came to fruition, and he left the plane abandoned. Well, when learning about the abandoned aircraft, Demin came up with the idea of turning it into a sustainable luxury villa that he could rent out to people vacationing in Bali. The plane would also be available for weddings and corporate events. Denham had big plans for the project, but was keen on getting another investor involved, which is where former KGB officer and later banker Alexander Lebedev stepped in. Whilst on vacation with his family on Bali, he was introduced to Demin by a mutual friend, and being an aviation enthusiast, he liked the idea of turning a Boeing 737 into a luxury villa. Lebedev also liked the project's sustainability of using the unwanted aircraft to create something people could enjoy. And after being taken up to the clifftop site, Demin had secured Lebedev's invested $200,000 into the project. It took longer to build than was first thought, and whilst dealing with problems brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, the project made slow progress but was finally completed in December 2023. Now open to guests, the private jet villa swiftly earned a place amongst the world's high-end resorts. And when speaking about how difficult it was to make the dream a reality with the South China Morning Post newspaper, Demin said, "It was my dream to make this happen, and I achieved it, but it was incredibly hard, and I won't be making another one. There's a billionaire in the US who wants me to make one for him. He is already the plane and the land. He says, just come and renovate it and he'll write me a blank check." I turned him down. I have 150 finished and ongoing construction projects, but this one project was more difficult than all of them put together. Well, guests can book the private jet villa for slightly more than $2,000 per night, but depending upon dates, the price can also rise to as much as $6,500. And the private jet villa also features a helipad to allow guests to be transported from Denpasar International Airport to the villa by helicopter. How about that?
Now, while you're reading that story, Mr. Barnes, I had a little look on a very well-known travel booking site on there, which we use in the UK, called booking.com, funnily enough. Now, bear in mind, you do get a breakfast if you book this place. You get a breakfast, continental breakfast included. For 4 people, Matt, just have a guess, for 4 people for a week, for 1 week in this.
What, in that?
In this, for 1 week, for 4 people.
I'm going to go absolutely crazy.
With a continental breakfast.
So not even a full English?
No.
Just a cold croissants. And,
just cold croissant and some fruit.
Yeah, I'm already no longer interested.
Yeah, 4 people, 1 week.
4 people, 1 week. I'm going to guess at £1,500 a night.
Any advance on that, Nev?
I would say $2,000. Andy?
What, per night or for the whole
for the
week?
For the whole week.
For the whole week. Oh,
for the whole week, 17.5 grand.
Nick?
I'm going to go 12 grand.
What?
So we can book this for us, four of us, PTUK hosts, to go and have a week here this year in October.
To be fair, the pictures I saw, there was only one double bed, so no thanks.
Bear in mind, you get the continental breakfast with this.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Okay.
I'll really enjoy my stale croissant, thank you.
So for that week in October, the beginning of October, it'll set us back £27,095.
Sorry, say that again out loud, please, slowly.
£27,095.
For the whole week for four people?
For the whole week for four of us, yeah.
To me, staying in somewhere like this is like somebody who works an office job going and spending a week sleeping in an office. So you can keep it, thanks. It's beautiful, lovely part of the world, but I don't want to stay in an aeroplane.
I mean, I would, just because of I quite like the idea of staying somewhere a little bit quirky, a little bit different, a little bit unusual. But never in a billion, even if I had £1 billion, I would not spend £27,000.
Okay, I've adjusted it now. I've done it just for one night.
Oh right. Okay,
just for one
night.
night.
I'm sure that'll really help.
For four of us, with the continental breakfast.
You're obsessed with this continental breakfast. If it's not deep fried, I'm not interested.
Yeah, can we not upgrade it to a full English?
Yeah,
£3,302.
If they throw in some bacon, I'm in.
I mean, you could, not being funny, you could have a weekend, like say at the Dorchester, for that much. You know, in one of their 5-star suites, and have the most amazing time in London.
Do you know what, one of the funniest things though? If you go on booking.com and you go through the list and stuff, it gives you the accommodation as the jet villa, blah blah blah, and one of the lists of stuff that it says that you get in the room is toilet paper.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You definitely get toilet paper.
Oh, thank goodness for
according
that.
to the
Yeah.
list.
Can I just say, Alan's comment there says, how much is it to stay in it without actually buying the plane? I
dare say you probably could buy a second-hand 737 for less
for
than
27. No, don't be silly. That
I'll tell you what, then I will rent out my pub for a week for 4 people for 20 grand. There we go.
Oh,
yes,
very generous. Will the bar be stocked?
Yes.
That's very good. Oh, it's very good of you. Thank you.
Will there be a full English?
Yeah.
There is no food apart from bar snacks. There is no toilet or running water, but it's still cheaper than the.
Look, I'm not being funny. It might be a problem for Carlos, but frankly, a card of scampi fries is my idea of heaven. I'm not going to lie.
He's got a point there, guys. It's sold.
Right.
Anyway, moving on to the next story. Andy, you've got this next one.
Lovely. Yes, this is from NL Times in the Netherlands. This airline pilots protest against plan to operate flights with only one pilot in the cockpit. Airline pilots handed out flyers at Schiphol Airport on Monday to raise awareness about plans to allow flights with only one pilot in the cockpit, what they believe to be a worrisome development in aviation. They reference plans by aircraft manufacturers, specifically Airbus, in which technology will be used to replace the second pilot in the cockpit at any given moment. Sounds dramatic. Dutch Pilots Union VNV said it has not been proven that such a move would improve safety. Quite the opposite, the Labour Union argued, deeming it essential to have 2 pilots working together in the cockpit. International studies and practice show that humans are the essential factor for high safety standards in aviation. For example, a system lacks creativity, resilience, leadership, teamwork, and survival instinct, the Pilots Association argued. We support new technology that benefits safety. 2 pilots working together with that technology takes safety to a higher level. In addition to aircraft manufacturers, the European Aviation Authority, EASA, also appears to think such a change has potential, according to the VNV. The union noted that the regulator already indicated last year that it would consider allowing flights on a limited scale in 2027 where aircraft are flown by one pilot. However, EASA deemed it absolutely unrealistic for all aircraft to be manned by a single pilot by the end of the decade. The Aviation Authority said this was mainly due to the degree in which it expected automation to advance in the coming years. VNV asked the aviation companies not to gamble with safety and to stop replacing a pilot with unproven technology. The Labour Union made this appeal together with other international pilot associations. The Dutch Union also wants an independent and scientific investigation into the plans, and this should focus on the medical and psychological implications, I'd say physiological implications as well, but also on the cost and benefits of removing a pilot from the cockpit. Discuss.
No, I dare not.
Are we allowed to say BS on this?
Oh.
program?
I mean, if you give me a good reason, yes, is the short answer to that.
Dear. I mean, this discussion has been going on for a long time, and I don't know how many times we have to say once again that it is completely unrealistic. And with the current level of technology, and there have been many situations where the decision making that goes on between the two guys or girls in the cockpit saves the day if there's some sort of incident, let alone the other things that Andy's just mentioned as well. I just find it incredible that this is even up for discussion, let alone the labour market that goes with it as well. That it would be a massive change in the operation of the whole thing, and I just do not understand why it's a thing, why we're even discussing it.
I don't even think it's technologically possible with the current generation of aircraft as well. You would need a brand new generation of aircraft. I was in the sim last week playing with some failures that I was just testing out, and one of them put the Airbus, the 320, into its absolute lowest electrical state called the emergency electrical config. You have no automation in that phase, and that's with all generators lost on the aircraft and the rat powering a small generator. How would automation help in that situation? You need two pilots because there's so much going on. So it doesn't seem realistic to me at all. Maybe another 30 years, not the next generation, probably the generation after that. But I think it's a pipe dream still.
Zeus makes a very good point. We would all be okay with an Otto. Just add an Otto, and we'll be fine. I think all commercial airliners should have an Otto.
And also, I don't want to fly one by myself.
You'd be bored.
Not just that, then everything really does rest on you, and there is no sensible voice sat next to you. If you went down a path that was wrong, there's nobody sat next to you going, do you think we should try something else or try this? Again, the creativity and also the survival instinct as well. I think that plays a very big part in avoiding accidents.
Dirk S. in the chat room says we can't even build reliable self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Or ones that don't spontaneously combust.
I mean, that's just a pipe dream.
It mentions Airbus in the article, and I sort of feel as though Airbus don't necessarily have a vested interest in going down the single pilot route. You could understand why airlines would want to cut costs by removing a salary from the cockpit, but I feel like the airframe makers, it's kind of more incumbent upon them to develop aircraft which are safe and could be operated safely.
But if they develop a single pilot aircraft, then they'll sell them to these airlines that want them.
Good point.
So,
Mazouz, before we move on, Mazouz just says, wouldn't have worked for Sully.
No, it wouldn't.
No, true.
I'm thinking of the Air Canada Gimli glider 767 that ran out of fuel. And the lot A3, so that was 767.
Oh, 76, yeah.
Yes. There's a big long list of accidents or incidents that have avoided loss of life, and I'm also thinking about the 777 at Heathrow that landed short of the runway threshold. Single pilot operation is going to help in those situations at all.
Just forget about it, industry people, because it's never going to happen.
Do you think though? I mean, because obviously there's big union fights and stuff involved in all this. I mean, do you think that's perhaps the only reason why they don't go down that route.
I think also, well, put it this way, with all the revenue that's been lost during the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, just going back to our original point that we were talking about bums on seats and charging for children and all the rest of it, the airline industry is still in a bad state. They need passengers on board at the moment, and if there's any suggestion of a potential reduction in safety, or a perceived potential reduction in safety, the public will not be flying anymore. And that would be a bad thing. So I think that they have to demonstrate that. Well, let's get some of the other fundamentals fixed first of all, shall we? Like aircraft that don't depressurize at 16,000 feet with a plug door blowing out and things like that. I think once we get some of the fundamentals sorted out,
the basics,
and the QA sorted out, I think then we might have a conversation about something else. Yeah.
And another thing that people don't realise in aviation is not every pilot is test pilot grade. Some pilots are bang average, yeah, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. And if you've got two guys on the flight deck, you can sort of, I mean, by say bang average, they pass all their simulators at the regulatory standard. But you do need, if you had two people like that, or one who's above average, it increases your chances of being a safer airline as well. If you cut the workforce in half and then people start failing sims and check rides, then you start losing revenue very quickly when you can't fly these flights.
The other thing that fascinated me,
they should just abandon it.
Yes, I remember talking to quite a well-known pilot that we all know a couple of years ago, and he was telling me that in some cases in his company, some of the flight deck crew aren't aviation enthusiasts or really enjoy aviation particularly. They are just there because it's a job, like I do my job, or Carlos and Matt and Nick do their jobs. I find that extraordinary, but it's backed up with what you've just said, Andy, I think, isn't it, really?
I think it's too much to expect that every person that is involved in aviation is doing it, because of their love of aviation. I mean, there must be an alarming amount of people who do it literally because it is a job. All right, maybe like the pilots and that kind of thing, very much a different story. But I mean, certainly people working at the airport and that, they're not working because they love being around planes and and aviation and stuff.
That's definitely different. But from a flight deck perspective, like I fly with some people and I go, oh, look at that. You don't see very many of them around. They're like, what? So that's 757 over there. Oh, is that what it is? Inside, I'm dying. I'm like, what? You want to fly air? Why are you doing this job if you don't like looking at aeroplanes?
Yeah.
I don't understand how people go through all the effort and to get an ATPL or a CPLIR, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of money. You've got to have some form of passion for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
I've taken it off in a different direction again.
No, that's all right. Richard Adam is saying amazing how anybody could drag themselves through an ATPL without a love of flying, which is essentially the point that you're making there, isn't it, Andy? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we'll use me as an example, shall we? I mean, I'm not. It's the running joke here. I'm not the biggest fan of aviation in the entire world. Yes, I have learned things, but I don't have a strong passion for it. Would I quite like to be cabin crew if I wasn't the size I was? Absolutely. I'd still enjoy it as a job, if you see what I mean. I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be that one looking out the window and sort of saying, "Oh, that's an A380. Wow,"
I think you'll find that's a flaps 10
absolutely. Oh, I hope he's got the speed tape on that one. Too much? Okay, yeah.
Right, just gonna give my contact at Norwich Airport a ring and just get you a job, Matt.
Lovely, yeah, fine. I mean, if I want to pay sort of more than what I'm being paid at Lexham, that's it. I'm off. Bye.
Anywho, right. Moving on to the next story. An airport. I've been interested to hear whether Andy's flown into this Airport yet.
I can tell you now, I haven't yet, because this is opened recently, but I flew over it and I'm staggered at the size of it.
This is from FL360aero.com. First in Europe, 3 aircraft, they say, will be able to land and take off at the same time from Istanbul Airport. So in a development that would be considered a first in Europe, Turkey is preparing to install a system at Istanbul Airport that will enable 3 aircraft to independently land and take off simultaneously. Minister of Transport and Infrastructure, Abdul Kadir Yılmaz, that chap.
Bless you.
Stated that they've been working since 2022 on the project, he said. Simultaneous independent triple parallel runway operations, or triple runway operation TRO, application in order to use the available resources at Istanbul Airport is the most effective way, he says. With the implementation of the application, Istanbul Airport will be able to make independent triple landings and takeoffs at the same time. According to the European Aviation Report, the European Air Navigation Safety Organisation, for this airport, says it's the busiest airport in Europe, with an average of 1,309 flights per day between January and February the 4th, he said. Istanbul Airport is the apple of our eye, he said. We need to further strengthen its position, its rights, in order to use the available resources at Istanbul Airport in the most effective way possible. Work was started back in 2022 for the implementation of simultaneous independent triple parallel runway operations. And with the implementation of the project, Istanbul Airport will be able to make independent triple landings and takeoffs at the same time. They said that we'll be starting training on the subject next month and think the trials are going to start this year. This system exists only in the USA, in the world, and not in Europe, and when they open it in Turkey, it'll be the first in Europe. The announcement signifies a major step towards enhancing the operational capabilities of Turkey's largest airport and one of the biggest civil aviation hubs in the world, aligning with the nation's ambition to position itself as a leader in aviation infrastructure and services. He said that with the introduction of the application, the flow of air traffic at Istanbul Airport will be ensured safely and quickly. Stating that the safety analysis study of the application has been initiated by the General Directorate of State Airports Authority with the Eurocontrol Agency. He also said the works carried out at the Eurocontrol unit in France are planned to be completed this year, and Turkey will be one of the few countries in the world where the application is made. In the current phase of development, the hub can handle 90 million passengers a year. However, the airport has a potential to serve 200 million passengers a year after completing all phases. All of the planned 4 phases of the airport's construction and expansion, including 6 runways, are expected to be completed by 2028. Giving information about the use of IGA, Istanbul Airport, and the incoming demands, he said that currently Turkish Airlines has an impact of nearly 80% at Istanbul Airport, and they want to increase the diversity at the airport. There is a demand from foreign airlines, and they want to attract other airlines as well. And they also said that we want to manage the process with a behaviour that will not harm the position that Turkish Airlines has achieved now. Turkish Airlines is a serious brand of ours, he said, which is a huge airline, flies everywhere around Europe. Earlier on, during the IGA's 2024 press conference, Selahattin Bilgin, the deputy CEO of IGA, was optimistic about the airport's future growth plans, building on the success of 2023 despite certain challenges. He noted that throughout 2023, the airport had received an investment of approximately $172 million, or 160.1 million euros. Regarding the growth plans for 2024, the company is further aiming a total investment of around 656.6 million euros in 2024, with 331.2 million euros allocated for the construction of the east-west runway and north-south runway. Now, Andy, you said you haven't flown in here yet, but you've flown over it. I mean, the pictures, it's rather large.
Yeah, I've flown at several of the old Istanbul airports, but not this one yet. But yeah, I have flown over it, and even at 30 odd thousand feet, it's a city in itself. And there's enough room between all of the main runways, to allow all of these parallel, independent approaches to take place. It's a crazy place.
It's mad. Because I mean, obviously in Heathrow we have, obviously, you know, takeoffs and landing on two separate runways, but this is something a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, you see airports this side in the States, but nothing in Europe really of this sort of magnitude.
What do you think, Nev? You'll end up going here before you retire the...
Well, although we've got lots of customers in Turkey, it's not part of the area of the world that I look after. But from a strategic point of view, if you think about, you know, where it is in the world and what a superb gateway it is between the Middle East, Europe, and the US as well, with very long runways, I would imagine, as well, because it gets quite hot in that part of the world. So it can handle almost any situation. But as John Jester pointed out in the chat room just now, it takes a long while to actually get around the airport in terms of navigating from one terminal to another, unless they've got some sort of high-speed passenger transport. But imagine walking from one terminal to another, for example. That could be quite a lot of steps, couldn't it?
Yeah, I know that this airport, I think, is quite heavily used through people wanting to go to Dubai and not have to pay a fortune, because you can fly to here and then go from Turkey to Dubai in quite reasonably priced, actually, with Turkish Airlines. So yeah, it's quite a major hub as such. But yeah,
I'm hearing a lot of good things about Turkish Airlines in terms of their business class cabins as well. I've seen many reviews on those recently, and they are very good indeed. So might be worth trying that out one of these days.
Are they part of one of the alliances, Nev? I think.
Can't remember.
I'm sure they were.
I can't remember whether they're Star Alliance or One World, or neither.
I think the Star Alliance Turkish.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah. So there we go.
So Matt, we've got a Ryanair story for you.
A what
Finally.
now? What's one of those?
Finally.
Remind me what that is again? It's been a while. Yes, indeed. TheJournal.ie is source for this one, and the headline is Ryanair apologises to man who was wrongly banned from flying with the airline. Ryanair has sincerely and unreservedly apologised before the High Court. Wow, it got as far as High Court. To a quantity surveyor who claimed that he had been wrongly banned from flying with the airline. Owen Michael Cahill sued the airline, who he said had defamed him after he was wrongly accused, or it wrongly accused him of engaging in disruptive behaviour on a date earlier this year, which he neither travelled on a Ryanair flight nor was he present at Dublin Airport. He also claimed that he'd been defamed by Ryanair after it wrote to his employer informing it of the ban. Today, Mr. Justice Rory Macaulay was informed that Ryanair wished to apologise to Cahill and that the flight ban that was incorrectly imposed on him had been withdrawn. Oh, well, that's very big of them. The airline said that Cahill had been mistakenly identified as a disruptive passenger, alleged to have been involved in an altercation with the airline staff, which required the assistance of airport police on the 2nd of January last. The airline, represented by Martin Hayden SC, said it accepts that Cahill was not this passenger, has offered to make amends to Cahill and to correct the record with the plaintiff's employer. It has offered to write a letter to his employer stating that the message it sent to Cahill's employers was inaccurate and that all the allegations it made against the plaintiff were fully withdrawn. It has also offered to pay him €10,000 compensation plus his legal costs as may be agreed. In his action reaction, Cahill said he is employed by the Jones Engineering Group and is currently working on a project in Copenhagen in Denmark. He claims that the flights he takes between Denmark and Ireland are purchased by his employer. He was due to fly with Ryanair from Dublin to Copenhagen on the 2nd of January, but after extending his leave, he did not travel on that date. The following day, the 3rd of January last, he claims he was defamed in an email sent to his employer by Ryanair's customer services. The email, he claimed, contained a false and untenable allegation that he was disruptive on his journey through Dublin Airport and that he was prohibited from flying with Ryanair again. He claimed what had happened to him would have had disastrous implications on his professional reputation, especially as he has to travel to Denmark as part of his job. I won't read any more because the story goes on, but you get the gist.
He's a bit miffed.
Yeah, and I think he's got very good reason here. I mean, presumably, I suppose the only saving grace in this scenario is that his employer will have known that he won't have been flying that day, so at least wouldn't have accepted Ryanair's account of events, if you see what I mean. But I mean, we're not being funny. If you receive a communication, I mean, do they have a right? Is it because perhaps it's because they booked the ticket? Maybe is the reason why, because they would have had their. It would have had the employer's, contact details, if you like, and therefore the right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because they don't have any other right to contact your employer.
No.
It's just because they'll have been the booking agent, if you like.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, I mean, it's ironically in this case, I don't think it was potentially as defaming as it otherwise could have been. But I mean, a large part of me is a little bit concerned, though, as how he was incorrectly identified, especially as he wasn't even there. Bit of a strange one.
They get a lot. There's a lot of people get banned. You wouldn't think it, but a lot of people do get banned. So, an error, but a costly one for Ryanair.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially €10,000 in compensation alone.
Yeah.
Very, very
nearly
as good as the 5,000 points, Avios points that we got each.
A whole 5,000.
We're never going to hear the end of this, are we?
No.
Oh dear. Anyway, moving on to the next story, Nev, and this is something. That when I saw this story break earlier on in the week, it did baffle me as to how the heck this person managed this.
Well, do you remember a few weeks ago we were talking about someone getting on a plane from Copenhagen's Kastrup airport and flew to LAX, which is entirely normal. However, this one is very similar because on bbc.co.uk it says that a man is accused of flying from London to New York without a passport. And he's been arrested.
Hey.
Well, a man who allegedly flew from London to New York without a passport or boarding pass has been arrested after he failed to appear at court.
Oh.
Now, I'm not an expert, but that's probably where this has gone wrong, with him not showing up. But how he got there in the first place, we don't know. But Craig Sturt has been charged on the 25th of December with obtaining services by deception, being unlawfully airside and boarding an aircraft without permission, the Met Police said. The 46-year-old of Slough in Berkshire was due to appear at Uxbridge Magistrates Court on the 22nd of January. He was arrested on Monday. It's understood that Mr Sturt travelled on a British Airways flight from Heathrow Airport to Terminal 5 on the 23rd of December without a passport or boarding pass. Police said he was first arrested at about 8 o'clock GMT on 25th of December after arriving back in London on a flight from New York. British Airways said it was assisting the authorities with their investigation, and a Heathrow Airport spokesman said all people who go airside are subject to security screening, including the individual involved in this case. We are supporting the authorities with their ongoing investigation. The Border Force said it would not comment. Not surprising, really. Mr Sturt was arrested in Richmond, southwest London, at about 8 o'clock in the morning on suspicion of failing to appear at court, police said. He's also been taken into custody at a London police station. Oh, dear, dear, dear. It's happened again, hasn't it? Well, first thing is that if the airline is found to be wanting in terms of not doing correct security checks in terms of documentation, they can be fined an awful lot of money. That's the first thing. But if you think about the other part of it, how on earth is this even possible for passport checks not to be done at the gate or pre-boarding or the boarding pass itself with the automated procedure or even manually checking? I'm just at a loss to know how that's even possible, especially on a US flight as well.
How do you at T5? Every time I've travelled through there, you have to scan your boarding pass to get through security.
Yeah.
So he's got past that, and then at the gate they scan your boarding pass and check your passport alongside it.
Yeah.
So he's been charged with the right thing, deception, because he's definitely deceived his way
Definitely
through
done
here.
something, hasn't he? Yeah.
But and then on the aircraft, 23rd of December, I'd have thought it'd been quite a busy aircraft at that time of year. So he's managed to find an unoccupied, unbooked seat as well without being challenged. Crazy.
He must have
frightening,
been.
really.
I mean, the other thing that astounds me is how he's found that seat without being moved about 15 times.
Yeah. But
That's the bit that astounds me.
He has gone through he's gone through screening, through security. So he couldn't have posed a threat with anything on him. But
Just
it's
reading
still just
between the
shocking.
lines here and wondering whether or not he might have had any counterfeit documents, perhaps. Is that possible?
Maybe.
I mean,
Oh, yeah, I mean-
are counterfeit passports a thing nowadays, given the extra layers of security that they have in them? And
Well,
would
yeah, I
it
mean,
even
yes
be
and
possible to have one that's good enough?
they're not necessarily being. Again, it depends a bit on what's going on. The passport itself may not actually be being scanned. If you're not actually, if it's a good copy, for want of a better word, and
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah,
everything
that's
all
what I was
marries up, and you choose not to use the e-gate, then that's fine. But as I say, it's the bit that's blowing my mind here is the fact that he sat in a seat and is. I mean, if that is the case, as I say, and there's lots of information, as always, unfortunately, with these stories, that is clearly missing from the narrative here. But to choose a seat to sit in that meant he didn't get challenged is
Took a lot of nerve, didn't it?
yeah, I mean, and also incredible luck,
Yeah.
as you say, especially like that time of year, Andy, where it's going to be super busy and all that kind of thing. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm surprised the Americans didn't arrest him.
That was my point, really, because let's face it, US immigration, especially in New York airport area,
Lovely people.
is very strict, and you really don't want to visit the special room, do you? So you should be
No.
doing as you're told.
I nearly ended up in the special room when I came to see Armando. I nearly ended up in the special room because I didn't realise this little scrap, and it was literally a scrap of paper that they give you. I had no idea how important it was, and so I sort
My
of
wife ended up in the special room.
oh, did she?
Yes, because her previous travel for work had been through India, several areas of the Middle East. So they wanted to have a long chat with her.
Oh,
Let's
So
not
this
start
guy-
on Nev's muff.
Yeah, this guy must have ended up in some special room and then returned back to the UK.
yeah. Indeed. I mean, we could always ask the resident American what he thinks of this story.
Joining us. Hello, Armando.
Oh, hello. I was just joining in right as you guys were talking about how charming the New York customs folks are.
Yes, absolutely. No, never in doubt.
Yeah, no, I'm actually, of everything that you guys said, I love Matt's comment, because in today's day and age, how could you just sit down at a seat and then the third time you get moved, not create a suspicion by the flight crew? But tremendous luck. But I guess that's the plot of Catch Me If You Can.
But also, I mean, like, because I've accidentally sat in the wrong seat before, and when I've done that, the first thing that the cabin, if the cabin crew sort of like come down, or if there's people moving around, like nothing like piques cabin crew's interest more than people moving around, like, you know, when perhaps they shouldn't be. And like the first thing, like when I did that, when there was a dispute, because I was adamant that the seat that I was sitting in was mine.
Mr. Smith, why are you in 1A?
I was absolutely wrong. I should stress, I completely got it wrong. But the first thing they do is they don't ask you for your seat number. They take your boarding pass off you and have a look at it themselves. That's what I can't get my head round. Stuart's saying in the chat room, he's saying, I take my hat off to the guy that's managed to get through all that security without being caught. It's also saying you were trying to bag a first class seat. That's why. Yes, I mean, shh. I wanted the Nev experience. I wanted the seat 1A experience. You know. Am I in seat one? You know, are we in seat 1A on Ryanair? By the way, when we go, is that a thing?
I'll tell you what, Nev would soon have something to say if
he
got
would.
on board
Yeah,
and find
absolutely.
someone sitting in that seat.
Yes, and I suspect he wouldn't be very polite about it.
No, of course no. Oh, anyway, Mundo, lovely to see you here. You've had you're literally hot off the tarmac, aren't you? Here.
Yeah, I just flew back from Naples, Florida, which is actually going to fit into the next story that we have. But yeah, uneventful flight, beautiful day to fly. Andy, sorry, I only flew 2 segments today, so just down and back to Florida, where it was beautiful and gorgeous, and
Slacker.
39,000 feet looked beautiful today.
It did look good.
Well, quite.
Yeah. I think I would like to go ahead, Matt, if you have it ready for the next story. We'll still play out the videos.
Yeah, okie dokie. Here we go then.
Approach to Naples, Florida. I was actually in Naples the day after it happened. I had a friend of mine that was in Naples flying for one of the charter companies the day it happened. He was actually the one holding short of the runway
changed
when this mishap actually happened. So it's Bombardier Challenger. It's a business jet, very common, based on the Bombardier CRJ series, the regional jet series. The 604 is kind of a mid-sized jet. All the systems are pretty much the same as a CRJ, a regional jet. This aircraft particularly was operated by Hoppajet. It's a charter company, Part 135 on the manned charter. They had gone from South Florida up to Ohio to pick up their passengers and had brought them down to Naples. The flight was supposed to continue on back to Fort Lauderdale, I believe, where the company was based, the crew was based. So they completed the portion up to Ohio, picked up their passengers, and came back. Now, South Florida gets really busy. Naples, Fort Myers area get really busy, especially with corporate and private travel, pretty much all through the winter. And there are this area is controlled by Fort Myers Approach and Miami Center, and then ultimately Naples Tower. The runways aren't particularly long. They're not super short, but they're not particularly long. And there's a lot of flight training traffic that operates there in that sort of Southwest Florida area. Not as much as the east side of Florida, but there's still quite a bit of small aircraft, general aviation, piston engine traffic. So doing a visual approach into Naples is pretty common. It's 8 out of 10 times it's what we do. Rarely do we have to do any kind of instrument approaches in there. And they actually prefer us to do these visual approaches because they can kind of sequence us biz jets in with the general aviation traffic. So this crew was coming in to do a visual runway 23. So that's a southwest aligned runway, southwest cardinal direction. And they were just turning off of the downwind leg. They had called the airport inside. They got clear to land. They were turning essentially to their base leg, which is just a little bit wider than your standard general aviation piston. And then if you've heard the air traffic control, Vast Aviation's got it, Live ATC had it, where very calmly the pilot said, "We've lost both engines." And the tower controller said, "You are clear to land, runway 23. The pilot or the pilot on the radio came back and very calmly again said, "We've lost both engines. We're not going to make the runway. We'll be putting down on the highway." I-75 runs north-south, right along the base turn, right along their path. It probably looked like a really good viable option. It would be to me also. There's that area is very crowded, especially that part right around the airport. There's a lot of golf courses, there's a lot of water, and then there's a lot of homes and neighborhoods in there. So if you don't have the glide capability to make it to the relatively short runway, that I-75 is a pretty viable option. If not, you're going to put it into the water somewhere. They made the decision to just put it down right ahead. They were likely they had initiated their base turn, so they were probably below 1,500 feet above the ground, so probably 1,200 feet above the ground. That doesn't give you a lot of room when you have a dual flame out. Now, we don't know, and I will caveat by saying this just happened. There's a lot of speculation out there. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on out there. Oh, it could have been fuel exhaustion. They could have run out of fuel. They could have been inadvertently turned the engines off somehow. We really just don't know. There are a few things that happened or that could have happened. Certainly, fuel exhaustion was the first thing that came to mind if they had or had not refueled in Ohio to get down to Florida. Based on the aftermath, the fire that I saw, and some of the people that I work with, it seemed like the airplane did have fuel on there. Another possibility that somebody I was talking to said the CRJ has, if the throttles are at idle or if the power levers are at idle, there's two paddles underneath that actually to shut off the engines. Now those aren't particularly like in the way. You'd have to, well, one, you fly this airplane all the time, you know what those levers do. Also, you have to kind of work at turning flipping those paddles up in order to turn the engines off. So that could be a possibility where in an inadvertent crew action could have potentially flipped those paddles up to essentially turn off the engines, or it could have been a pure mechanical failure based on something mechanical. It could have been a fuel contamination issue. We really just don't know. Unbelievably, the two passengers and the flight attendant survived. And again, it's just another testament to, even in corporate aviation, the importance of your cabin crew back there. These are trained flight crew members. The flight attendant that was back there, Ann Bosmans, or Sydney Ann Bosmans, she was a trained flight attendant. She was trained on mid and large cabin business jets, and they were transported to the hospital, but by all accounts they had no injuries. The pilots were able to put the aircraft down onto the highway, only striking one vehicle. The person in that vehicle survived also with minimal injuries, and the two pilots did not survive, but that's because as they were putting down on the runway, it was lined by a concrete barrier, and it seems like the front of the aircraft may have made contact with that concrete barrier at pretty high speed. But everybody in the back was able to get out, and there is a lot of social media footage about right after it happened that you can actually see the flight attendant and the passengers running out of the aircraft and kind of talking to one of the witnesses. Again, right? So we just don't know what happened here. We will know in 30 or 45 days once the NTSB publishes a preliminary report. And really interesting to me, especially I fly in and out of Naples regularly. It's actually my number one airport that I go to for my job. So I'm interested to see what happened in this mishap.
Thanks for that, Armando. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's I should just say, by the way, there is a video if you want to go looking for it, or you may have already seen it. We've, for obvious reasons, opted not to share it this evening. But you guys have sort of been taking a look at the video. I mean, what is your take from it, Andy? Perhaps we'll start with you.
Yeah, just pretty unlucky in the end, to be honest. With both engines lost and low airspeed, it's going to be difficult to control. And the video that we've all seen, it was sort of lined up with the highway, but not quite. And well, it's 50-50 in that situation. Can't really critique them on it. Just bad luck. Very tragic.
Yeah, we do this approach all the time. As I said in that video there, it's the weather in Florida is great 90% of the time. So we're using these visual approaches to get us sequenced in with general aviation traffic. And the right downwind to runway 23 is incredibly common because most of the jets come down either from off the coast, or there's an arrival that comes down the middle of Florida. So doing this right downwind where you're essentially at 1,500 feet, and as Andy can attest to it, you're in a visual situation, 1,500 feet, turning downwind to base and losing the engines at that point. They didn't really have a lot of options from what I can see. There's also, like I said in the video, just neighborhoods and water everywhere. The highway probably looked pretty appealing to them. And, at that point, you're probably thinking, what can I do to minimize the loss of life or damage? And that highway would, I just flew this today, right? The visual to 2-3, and that would have been a really, really good choice, knowing that you're probably going to hurt somebody, but the alternatives are hurt a lot of people. And as we saw from some of the video there, they flew it. John Jester said it in the chat room. They flew it all the way down into the ground. The pilots were very experienced. This is so preliminary, but for me, even experienced pilots make mistakes, but I feel like it's not going to be a fuel exhaustion event. I think we're going to find that there was something that went wrong. Either they went over the gate the power control levers went over the gate and inadvertently shut the engines off, or there was a mechanical that happened there in the last minute there. But I commend the crew for putting it down on the highway, and but most importantly, I commend that flight attendant, as I said in the video, that's one of those situations where you're probably 30, 60 seconds to landing, and you think everything is going just fine. Next thing you know, you're hitting the ground and you're spinning around, and the flight attendant, she was able to get those passengers out in that situation where it looked like a pretty violent come to a stop. So, kudos to the crew and the flight attendant for getting those two passengers out.
Yeah, like you said, it's a very low energy state at that point. You've got a lot of drag, you're using a lot of power, and with no power, you've got seconds, literally seconds, to decide, I'm putting it there, and that's it. So yeah, kudos to them and to the cabin crew.
Yeah. I think we've got a second BizJet mishap, Matt, if you want to play that out, and then I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about this one too.
Now, the second BizJet crash that has happened in the past week, another one that's just kind of hits a little bit close to home. It was a Hawker that went down in Colorado. It's a Hawker 900 XP, November 900 Victor Alpha. This aircraft had just taken off out of Grand Junction, Colorado. Now, this is another interesting one. Again, we don't know what happened quite yet, but there are a lot of indications that this could have been a mishandled situation by the crew. Coming out of maintenance, the Hawker is one of a few jets, it's not very common, that requires a stall test whenever the leading edges are any more than 2 panels are removed, or the leading edge stall strip is adjusted in any way. It seems everything is pointing that this crew had picked up this airplane and were going out to do a stall test on this airplane, which is required by the manufacturer, and then they were going to continue on to their destination after the stall tests were complete. Now, stalling a business jet is not a very common occurrence. It's not something that we do. We do it in the simulator for sure. But conducting stall tests on Hawkers or Lear jets, which are the most common aircraft that require this kind of test, it really should be done by trained crews that have specific procedures in place. Their company have specific procedures in place. The manufacturer has procedures to conduct a stall test, but the FAA, there's no special certification required for this. The FAA doesn't require a special certification for the pilots. You don't have to be a test pilot. You don't have to be a maintenance pilot or anything like that. Letter of the law, any crew member, any certified pilot can go out and do a stall test on a Hawker. Now, why we think these guys were out there doing a stall test is they had just picked up the airplane from maintenance, and they had departed Grand Junction, and I don't particularly agree with this decision, but they went west towards the higher terrain. So Grand Junction sits right at the base of the Rocky Mountains. If you go east, it just kind of drops away from you, and it's just nothing but flat land. If you go west, it's rapidly rising terrain into the Rocky Mountains. They elected to go west towards rising terrain and conduct their test because they actually said so on the ATC recordings that are now publicly available. They requested a block of 2,000 or 3,000 feet. Now there's some things that don't really make sense to me. This stall test is not supposed to be done above 18,000 feet. I think they requested a block at up to 20,000 feet. The stall test requires 5,000 foot of complete clearance above the ground, above weather, above anything like that. And those conditions just weren't quite there at the location at the time that these guys requested their block altitude to conduct their tests. Now, they don't say on the recording what the test was, or at least not the ATC recording. The Hawker is equipped with a cockpit voice recorder, so I'm sure the NTSB who went out there will determine very quickly what was happening there and what happened inside the flight deck that led to this mishap. The aircraft had just come out of a maintenance from a very, very reputable maintenance company. Of course, the maintenance company immediately took the necessary crisis actions, and they are working with and cooperating with the NTSB and the FAA. So unfortunately, both pilots lost their life in this. I believe there was, no, it was just the two pilots on board. And it's just again, is it legal? Yes. Is it prudent to go out and do a stall test on an aircraft that you haven't been trained to do this kind of thing? Maybe necessarily not. So we will see what happened with this one, and we will check back in with everybody, and once the NTSB releases their preliminary also.
Wow.
Okay, ready to go. No, just I sent you guys some cool video. Yeah, well, unfortunately, but I sent you guys some behind the scenes video. Maybe we'll throw it out to the Patreon supporters. Of the leading edge of the Hawker and why the stall test is required and things like that. But this is just a bad. There are some initial indications that there was just some bad decision making before this flight even took off. So
it's a funny one, isn't it?
Investigation.
It is a funny one.
Yeah, and we were just talking about it off air, but this version of the Hawker, the 900 XP, I think does have a flight data recorder. All of them have a cockpit voice recorder, but the 900 XP, I believe, has an FDR, so we may get some of the parameters. The one thing that I didn't mention in the video is there was previous reports of ice in the area, and the crew elected to conduct the test starting at 20,000 feet, but other PIREPs in the area had reported icing from 10,000 to 15,000. So it is possible, this is purely conjecture, but it is possible that they could have picked up ice on the way up to do this stall test, and they may or may not have done that. We have a TKS system on the Hawker, so it's a wet wing. They may not have known that there was a little bit of ice buildup, and I was explaining to you guys earlier today, even just the silicone bead that runs down the leading edge, the minute differences in that, millimeter differences in that, will make a huge difference in the way the airplane behaves after a stall happens, or once a stall begins. So certainly picking up ice would have affected the stall characteristics of the airplane. But yeah, there you go. We don't know.
Well, hopefully that's the last we'll
For a little while,
hear of
anyway.
anything like that for a while. Moving on, next story. We'll take a look at Airline Live, or airlive.net, I should say. This one, anyone fancy a taser? Armando, I'm guessing it's something you don't generally tend to carry on board the Hawker with you on a regular basis, the taser? No.
Nope, not in my flight bag.
Really? Oh, that's a shock.
United Airlines flight to Newark cancelled after taser found in pilot's luggage at Edinburgh Airport. A Newark, New Jersey-bound flight from Scotland was cancelled when the pilot who was meant to fly the United Airlines plane was instead placed in handcuffs after airport security found a taser in his bag.
As you do.
The unidentified United Airlines employee, 56-year-old, was arrested and escorted out by Edinburgh Airport security by 4 armed officers on Saturday, a witness told Edinburgh Live. The pilot, who is from the US, was charged with a firearms offence, as it is illegal in the UK to possess a taser. His arrest left a lot of disgruntled passengers who were hoping to fly back to New Jersey that morning on as the 9:25 a.m. flight was swiftly cancelled. United Airlines confirmed the pilot had been removed from service, and this employee, they said, was immediately removed from service, and we are fully cooperating with the local authorities, the airline told the Post Saturday. Scotland Police also confirmed the pilot's arrest, saying that a report will be submitted to the Procurator Fiscal, which is the country's public prosecutor office. Yes.
An interesting way to
End your career?
enforce
against people to
cooperation of
sit
your
down
crew
properly,
members.
isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never thought about taking a taser with me to try and get everybody on side.
No,
They have to do what you say, aren't they? Good leadership skills there.
Yeah, I
What
think
was this
so.
guy thinking?
I just have visions of Nev carrying a taser just to ensure no one sits in seat 1A. I'm not going to lie.
yes.
I guess another... Armando, can you carry tasers in the US?
Yeah, legally, like on the street. Yeah, sure.
On an aircraft?
No, you can't get them through TSA. No,
Oh, okay. So I was
but I
wondering-
could have like a collection of tasers in like my car.
Do
Oh,
you?
really? I wonder how he got it on the aircraft, because I doubt he got it
Oh, my.
in the UK.
Plus, who carries a taser?
Yeah.
Not in the States. No one.
What are you worried about?
Perhaps Edinburgh Airport security thought it was a set of bagpipes or something. I don't know.
But how,
Okay.
how did he get his crew? I mean, crew must have their bags scanned as well as us.
Yeah,
general
of
passengers.
course.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
so how the hell did he manage to get a taser through in his white bag?
Oh, well, so in the US, we have KCM, known crew member, which is a super secret doorway usually, and you do get randomed, but it's like every 8th person or something like that has to go through security. So the majority of our airports are so big, and especially the hub airports are so big that if you were to scan every crew member, including cabin crew, it would just take forever. It just would wrap up. It would be huge delays. So we have what's called known crew member, KCM, where you can go through a super secret squirrel doorway and avoid security. Now you still have to, they're very explicit, your company is about, you still have to abide by all the TSA rules, and you may be randomed to go through the full security screening, but it is entirely possible to go through KCM and have some things. But there are advantages before you think like, well, why is that? There are advantages. So here we still have the liquid rules. We still have all kinds of stuff. sometimes when you want to pack a water bottle, you want to pack all your food. It's just way easier for everyone to just go through the KCM line. So it is possible, but the question's still like, why is there a taser in your flight bag?
Maybe it
Is
was
that a taser in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me? Yeah.
Nev, what's the weirdest reason you've ever heard one of your flights cancel or delayed for?
Yeah, it's been tow bar breaking, pushback tow bar breaking and damaging the front wheel area. That's probably, that's about the worst it's got. But of course, we do actually know someone that operates for this airline, flying the 757 out of Edinburgh to Newark. So perhaps we'll ask him when we next see him.
Ask him if he carries a taser.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Scotland. I'm more worried about Newark. So that's where I would carry a taser.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's safe to say
you've been out in Edinburgh on a bad night, you know.
Yeah. Standard Friday night out, isn't it? I thought.
Safe to say this pilot definitely got a shock.
Yeah, nobody's granting that with any form of laughter, Carlos. And in fact, if I had a tumbleweed
I'm surprised
sound
the
effects
chat room
to
have not-
effect,
have
I
not
would have
jumped on.
absolutely done it.
I'm surprised the chat room have not jumped on this one, you know.
One of our 22,000 monthly listeners has laughed at that. You can find some joy in that, Carlos.
Yes, Thank you, indeed. Armando.
At least one somewhere. Yeah.
Anyway, Andy, you've got the last story, and interested to hear what you think of this one, actually.
Yes, well, this is from paddleyourown.canoe.com, and United Airlines reportedly grounds brand new Airbus A321neo aircraft because pilots can't turn off the no smoking signs. United Airlines grounded its brand new fleet of A320neo on Monday because pilots are unable to turn the no smoking signs off, even though these signs must remain illuminated at all times when passengers are on board. Aviation insider XJohn NYC first spotted the temporary grounding on social media site X, and a short time later, aviation journalist Seth Miller discovered that United Airlines had asked the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, for a special exemption. Smoking was banned on domestic US flights back in 1990, and a year later the ban was extended to all international flights. But when officials wrote up the rules, they decided that there should still be a way for pilots to manually turn off the illuminated no smoking signs that appear throughout all passenger plane cabins. Over the years, US airlines have sought and been granted exemptions to these rules, allowing them to hardwire the illuminated no smoking sign to remain on at all times, removing the ability of pilots to override this feature. In fact, United noted in its letter to the FAA on Monday that the no smoking signs on all of its Boeing aircraft can't be turned off. The computer software on the new A321neo aircraft, which recently joined United's fleet, is programmed to keep the seatbelt sign switched on at all times with no pilot override. But it would appear that United may have failed to get the necessary exemption before putting them into service.
Oops.
In a statement, United told us, "We're removing our 5 A321neo aircraft from service while we seek FAA approval for the no smoking sign to remain automatically illuminated rather than operate from the cockpit. We're working to minimise disruption for our customers, and we expect to cover all of today's 321neo flying with other aircraft types, resulting in no cancellations due to this issue today. We hope to have these aircraft flying again shortly." Later on Monday, the FAA gave permission for United to put the 321neos back into service while it evaluates the exemption request. It was also noted that both Allegiant Airlines and Frontier have recently filed exemption requests for software-restricted no smoking signs on their Airbus A320 fleets, although both airlines haven't grounded their aircraft while awaiting the exemption. And it's an interesting one for me, because I don't think they must have rewired the newer 320s because, and here's a weird quirk of the Airbus family, when you're on an aircraft and after takeoff, when the gear comes up, you'll notice on the Airbus that the overwing and door lights that say exit, they extinguish, and they are battery powered in the case of emergency. And the only way, due to the wiring, that you can guarantee that those batteries will charge is to turn off the no smoking sign. It's all plumbed in a very strange way, so they must have sorted that out now. But I believe that switch nowadays is portable personal electronic device switches for these ones. so you can see when they come on and come off. So I don't know if it works the same way that way, but there you go. Bit of a random fact for you there about the 320 family. Certainly the older ones.
Just seems like a random. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But obviously, smoking's not been allowed on flights for a number of years, or a lot of years.
No. It's also just weird regulation, isn't it? Why would they have to be able to turn them off? Just to save all these exemptions, just change the regulation.
Is it not as simple as that, though? Is there an argument that it's not as simple as that?
Not sure. I guess it probably has to go through whatever the state's version is of Parliament, Congress, or wherever to sort it out. I don't know.
But as you say, surely that's got to be easier than having to have an exemption for umpteen thousand aircraft, just because of a light that can't be turned off because there's no need for it to be turned off. I mean, I'd like to say that here in the UK that's not a requirement. Is that not?
That's what I was curious about. Is there anywhere in the world where it is legal to smoke on an aircraft?
No, you can't smoke here. There's certainly no requirement to have a light that you have to be able to turn on and off, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think it's an ICAO thing now. It was country-based, but I think it's an ICAO thing. You know, funny enough, though, even in the Air Force, an inoperative ashtray was a grounding item. In case somebody decided to light up, you have to have an ashtray.
We still have to have ashtrays in the toilets.
Yeah.
In case somebody does decide to light up, so that we have somewhere to dispose of it. So next time you're in an aircraft, you might notice an ashtray in the back of the toilet door, and that's why.
That's why.
That does beg the question, Nev, can you cast your mind back? Remember the last time that you remember smoking on board a commercial airliner?
Egypt Air, on the way back from Cairo, where you could smoke in the back of the plane, but not in the front.
2019? 2018?
No,
I'm just kidding.
No. This is, 1995, probably, I would say. Something like that. That's when I was on it, anyway. And even though I was in the non-smoking section, it didn't make a lot of difference.
No.
As you can imagine.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I remember an Air 2000 flight, and I remember we were all sat at the back because that meant that Mum and Dad could smoke. I do remember that, but I can't remember where we were going now. Probably.
I remember when the regulations came in, when they banned smoking on
95, 96. It was around that time.
Yeah, it was. I think 95 ICAO. 95 to 98 is what I read.
Yeah.
With like Japan being one of the last nations.
In the 320, in the cockpit, there is on the older ones, there is an ashtray on each pilot's side.
Oh, lovely!
Literally just aft of the side stick. But on the newer ones, they've gone now, and I'm gutted because it used to be perfect for keeping your mobile phone in, your keys, any other bits and pieces that you had. You could just stuff it all in there. But now that they've stopped fitting it now.
Sounds like a great place to forget your phone and keys.
It's right next to your arm. You can't forget it because you hit it every time you move the side stick.
Do you guys want to know funny? This is a funny superstitious thing. I never fly with my car keys.
Really?
Never, ever.
Really?
Yeah. I had it when I fly private, so we have our own hangar. So we.
Listen to him.
Yeah, no, I leave them on the desk. This goes all the way back to John Armentrout, Master Sergeant John Armentrout, who was actually shot down over Peru in a C-130. If you guys listeners go Google that, it was a counter drug thing, and this guy was one of my first instructors, and he told me, he's like, I was walking out to the airplane when I was first in the Air Force, and he told me, he's like, you don't have your car keys on you. I was like, what? I do have my car keys. He's like, listen, don't carry your car keys on you, because if we go in, make a smoking hole in the ground, you probably have a good parking spot. You want them to be able to move your car. Okay. Right. So for 30 years now, I've never, if I fly and I have my car keys on me, I freak out. It's like not wearing your Monday underwear. I'll go back. I'll be like, hold on, I got to run back inside, and I'll drop my car keys And that
I've got nowhere to leave mine at work.
we can
Gotta
like
keep
that.
them on me.
You can open your car through the app, right? So like, sometimes I leave my car keys in my
What sort of car you got?
a Volvo.
Mine's
Yeah,
an
it's
old diesel. I don't have any apps for it.
Hey, Armando flies private, huh?
He must be doing very well to have one of these fancy cars with an app. I want to start working private then.
It's a Volvo. It's not that. Oh, great. John says, I'm weird. Thanks, buddy. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
That's
I was
just-
thinking it,
that's-
but I didn't say it.
This is the first of many superstitious things that I do.
We
Also,
just want to
Monday.
know what your Monday underwear is, Armando.
I was just going to say Monday underwear.
What?
You got to wear it 7 days a week.
Oh my!
No,
It's taking a
that
turn.
brings an end to the commercial segment this week, hey? But we have got the military news coming up, but we've also had a little piece of audio sent in to us, very short piece from listener Grant McCarran. Those of you might know of Grant McCarran from the Plane Crazy Down Under. Now, he's been flying with a certain Evan Shue, who is sometimes in our chat room on a Wednesday night. But him and Evan went up flying last week and put together a tiny little piece of audio for us. So, Matt, if you're ready, hit the button.
I say, old chap, it's a beautiful day today, isn't it?
Sure is. G'day.
Oh, yeah, I better go back to normal, hadn't I? Bloody Carlos saying that I could do a Pommy accent that time. Jeez, put me on the spot, why didn't he? But so you'll be terrified to know that the weather is 31 to 37 degrees today and tomorrow. That's Celsius, of course. And there's not a cloud in the sky. We're going to be baking, not swimming in the rain or, drowning, as I hear a lot of parts of the UK going. So we just thought we'd let you know we're looking after summer for you.
Yeah, we had a great flight up to Tokenwall and checked out the Aerodrome Cafe, the museum, and even a P40.
Yeah. Alan Arthur was flying it in, so we heard the news from a friend Matt who runs the place up there, so we were wheels up an hour earlier than expected, so we were able to get up there and catch up with Alan, whom I haven't seen for years.
Yeah.
So that was great to see him. But
We got there just in time for him to do some loops and rolls over the airfield, so a free air show.
Yeah, a little bit of like, hey, I'm here. I mean, it's serious. We're coming in on the RNP, just practicing, then got to go mist and join a 45 degree on the downwind and come in and land. Alan comes in the P40. Big barrel roll over the airfield. I mean, if you can, why the hell not?
It was the best.
Yeah. But I've got some photos. I'll try and share them with you guys. But hope all is well. Survive the winter. Soon enough, we'll be complaining about, oh my God, it's 5 degrees and grey and raining.
Yeah. We'll enjoy it while we can.
Yeah. We'll look after summer and we'll send her back to you looking not too worn out. Anyhow, just thought we'd say hi. We've just been for a fly. It's been great. And we just wanted to tell the whole world. So, haha.
Rub it in a little.
Just a tad. Okay.
See ya.
See you from down under. Oh, Struth, mate.
G'day.
Hey, let's crack up the Barbie.
Took me completely by surprise there. Sorry about that. Wow. Great
interview, Andy. You're hired.
Very glad I didn't bring that up in a hurry. Very good.
That's what she said.
Quite. Well, that took a turn. Thank you very much to Grant and also
Support the show on Patreon. You'll hear in the background.
Abort!
Anyway, as Matt said, thank you very much to Grant and Evan for sending that in. Next time, guys, send us some pictures as well. We'll pop
please.
them up on the screen. So, yeah, thanks for that. Now, it's time to hand over the show to our resident master of all things grey.
All right. So we have one military story that's going to take up most of the military time, so we'll probably cancel the other two. But it is the only one that we mentioned in the intro. Matt, let's hit the button.
What's up, Bogies 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. Now, undersea Boogie.
Oh my gosh. The shock emoji face was perfect. Because I have a 9-year-old, so I only speak in emojis.
Of course, absolutely.
Listen, if you haven't to be living under a rock and you haven't seen this new show, Masters of the Air, I can't imagine anybody that listens to this show not having already seen Masters of the Air. But we're going to talk about it because it's such a good show. You haven't seen it? Why not?
No. Well, I don't
what is your excuse?
I don't have Apple TV.
It's a watch party. Go to Carlos's house. Right?
Okay.
You have to see it. This is
okay. All right.
This is going to be my plea to everyone. Find a friend that does have Apple TV. Go watch Masters of the Air. It is really good. Is it as good? Oh, controversy. Is it as good as Band of Brothers? I think it's lacking ever so slightly, right? But that's like it's like the third version of something.
I'm not going to lie.
Really
that was a definitive no from Nick. That's all I was saying. It was very much a no.
I'll agree. It is not as impactful as Band of Brothers, but it is really good, right? And I'm incredibly happy that the story is being told about the 100th bomb group. The 100th bomb group, had a lot of fame for being the bloody 100th because of their losses, but it is just one story, right? It's one story of so many fighter groups and bomb groups and British squadrons and groups and wings that fought during World War II out of the UK, and because of their notoriety, we have all been following the Tom Hanks is one of the producers on this. And that's one of the things that I wanted to say is there is actually an accompanying podcast. I think it's just called Masters of the Air. So go search for that if you're a podcast listener. And it's the producers of Masters of the Air just talking about how they went about the story and how they filmed it and some of the behind the scenes stuff. But it is such a good story to be told. One of the I think we were all chatting about this in the last week or so. Even some of my friends, Air Force friends, we've all been chatting. We have 100 Masters of the Air chat going on Facebook. Yeah, because it's such a good show, right? And I've told you guys so many times. For me, as an American airman serving over in the UK, having flown into and out of these old airfields, whether it was Cambridge, Rougham, Tivenham, Bury St Edmunds, Scunthorpe, Sculthorpe, it was never lost on me the importance of me being an American flying out of these airfields when so many people before me had not only taken off but not come back to those airfields. Both of you guys, Matt, Carlos, we got a chance to fly out of Bury St Edmunds, RAF Rougham, and the buildings are still there, right? Like the control tower is still there. Some of the Quonsets huts, the engine shop is still at Rougham Airfield. Thorpe Abbotts has a great museum. They're probably one of the better museums. If you guys haven't been there, go to 100thbg.com. 100th Bomb Group. Sorry, 100thbg.com is the 100th Bomb Group Foundation. The 100th Bomb Group Museum is 100bgmus.org.uk. But go support these people. I think they were actually worried about the amount of people that were going to come to the museum.
Yeah, so actually, can I chip in there?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Please, Armando, because many of you know that I'm both me and Carl's very heavily involved in park radio, and we were actually invited to a set of meetings. Now, I don't think because it was a public meeting, so I don't think I'm saying anything that's controversial that we're not allowed to talk about on here. But the meeting, which was being hosted essentially at Thorpe Abbotts in one of the mission huts. We had a little wander around the control tower afterwards, by the way, just to, because I knew I'd get told off if I didn't. And while we were there, we were having conversations. So there was lots of representatives, not only from the Thorpe Abbott Museum, but also several of the other museums in the area. There was representatives here from Flixton, obviously, because that was an American air base as well. There were people coming from Northampton and all that kind of thing. All people who have been included, if you see what I mean, and will at some point appear during this this run of TV. I think it's 9 programs, isn't it, in the run, if memory serves. And one of the things that they were desperately concerned about, because resources are really, really limited, and all of these wonderful museums here in the UK receive absolutely zero funding and rely 100% on volunteers. And one of the biggest things that they were concerned about, which is why this sort of extraordinary meeting, if you like, had been called, is they were desperately concerned about trespassers and people visiting the museum when there weren't like representatives there. And the other problem that was highlighted there as well is there were huge concerns about people trespassing on non-museum land, because they rely very generously on the landowners, if you like, to allow to look after and keep these. But this land is technically owned privately, and you're reliant on like the landowner to allow you to have access to what's there. The big issue, certainly at Thorpe Abbott from this meeting that I was there, was that people would be trespassing essentially on the old landing strip, looking for artifacts and for sort of all that kind of thing, you know, and just sort of doing that. And because technically they don't have permission to do that, because it is private land. It is land that is essentially farmed. And so, I mean, the meeting that I attended was sort of really a discussion group, if you like, about how, you know, to sort of try and not only get the most out of this exciting thing, because in many ways it's really, really good news, because obviously it will bring lots of, people across, probably from the US especially, to come and look at, come and visit these amazing museums, but also a way of sort of like trying to manage it, like, when the open days are and all that kind of thing. And it was a fascinating sort of meeting, if you like, to attend, because there were some real concerns about, and of course, like Thorpe Abbott's, for example, it's on an absolutely tiny country road, that you would absolutely struggle to get a full-size coach down, for example. The people who live in the communities, they're not geared up for large volumes of traffic, and there just simply isn't the resources to do much about it. So whilst it is an amazing TV programme that is in the main being very warmly received by sort of like TV viewers and stuff, it has caused almost panic, I would say, with the museums themselves, trying to work out how they're going to manage this huge influx of visitors.
Yeah. Now, that being said, this show has been under production for almost a decade, I think, and they could have seen it coming. I hope that this turns into a positive for the 100th Bomb Group Museum and the Thorpe Abbott's Museum. Because it could be an influx of money. We have here the Mighty 8th Museum in South Carolina, which is really good, but there's, I think, something different about going to visit where it happened. And Thorpe Abbott's is just representative of so many airfields, right? I mean, especially East Anglia, there's so many airfields that even I used to try to take my motorcycle to and just kind of try to get a glimpse of an old Quonset hut or maybe an old runway, just because it was so special to me. It was so, the whole thing was so emotional and just so unique and such a special experience that not everybody gets the opportunity to have, especially traveling, Norfolk and Suffolk and Essex, amongst everywhere else. But really, that was the majority of the airfields there. It's just such a cool. I'm glad that the show is being produced. All of us aviation nerds could probably critique a thing here or there. For me, it was some of the CGI was a little wonky, but overall, I think the story is being told really, really, really well. One thing that Nick and I were talking about last week at some point was the lineage. So the 100th Air Refueling Wing at RAF Mildenhall still carries the Box D, the insignia that the 100th Bomb Group had back in World War II. And I think that's pretty unique. I know Air Mobility Command is trying to get away from markings on airplanes, but I think that's one of the ones that's going to stick with the 100th. The KC-135s continuing to have the Box D on the tail. Pretty cool. Again, but it's so special, right? 182 crews were lost from the 100th Bomb Group alone, and that was one airfield, one group in East Anglia. Just really an amazing story being told here. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on it? So far?
One of the things that I love about the weather, again, it came up quite a lot when we were talking about it, was the it was referred to as the friendly invasion.
Yeah.
Because there were so many Americans basically who came over here, to do a job, but yeah, they did sort of in this area. Apparently, it was widely renowned. It was widely known as the friendly invasion, basically.
Well, I suppose it still is, huh? Because as Americans, of all the places we could be stationed, England, it's kind of at the top.
Yeah,
kind of at the top of the list of places, and who in the chat room, Neil, mentioned RAF Harrington. RAF Harrington is special to me because the carpetbaggers were based there, the 801st Bomb Group, and that was the beginnings of Air Force Special Operations Command back with the B-24s. We've talked about that previously on the show, but they have a great museum at RAF Harrington that you could probably spend an entire day just going through. I'll tell you what, the next two military stories aren't super time critical. We can leave those for next week. So if you guys want to start wrapping up the show, maybe.
Nev, what are you like? Actually, I was going to say,
I haven't understood the last 15 minutes of the show, that's all. But anyway.
I mean, Matt,
Even I've understood the last 15 minutes of the show. I never thought that would happen.
Matt already knows this, but you were just talking about the museum there at Thorpe Abbott's, and as Matt knows, that there is a piece in the museum there in the control tower, which I donated to them quite a few years ago now, a number of years ago now. But it was a B-17 flight, cockpit light, which I donated to the museum many years ago. They've got it in one of the display stands in the tower there. But it's a great little museum. If you're around this area, mine and Matt's neck of the woods here in East Anglia, it's not a massive museum. It's not huge, but they have packed a lot in to the buildings they have there. I don't know whether you got a chance to go in the smaller Nissen huts on the right-hand side as you go into the museum, Matt, or not, but...
No, I haven't. No.
But yes, moving on to the last bit of the show, we've got some news a bit about where me, Matt, Nev are off to in the end of this month. Actually, it's creeping up on us very fast, actually. But we've been debating when to announce it on the show for a while now. We've had various meetings and gets-togethers and stuff, but it's a question that we are being frequently asked now on the show, and that is about the 500th show. So we made a decision a while back, actually, as to what we were going to try and do for the 500th, and we, as a team, have been offered quite an experience, I'd say, guys, wouldn't you say? Definitely an experience to do something for a day, which is going to involve us as a team. We've decided that we are going to kind of get together as just the whole team, the hosting team and the production team together as well. And we are going to do something very special indeed. Not going to say exactly what we're doing, but trust me, we're going to do some filming for the day. Not too far down the road from where me and Matt are here, and we are going to be having that as our kind of celebration of our 500th show. But it's going to be a quite a big day. Armando is going to be joining us from the US, which is also very special indeed. Nick's going to be there. Nev's going to be there. It's going to be a huge day, a packed day. Now, that's not to say that we are not going to have some very big meetups this year, because we are going to plan to have some quite big get-togethers this year in and around the area, around the UK as well. So we are going to have probably a meet-up at Duxford this year again. And I think we may well try and push and see if we can because one of our best, more sort of successful meetups was one of the fly-ins we had, didn't we, guys, at one of the local airfields here, which was quite a good day. So we're probably going to have that as well this year. But we kind of made a decision as a group that we were going to celebrate the 500th show together and spend a day together as hosts, because it's one thing is which a lot of people don't realise is when we do have the big events that we do for the milestone shows, we generally tend to spend so much time apart as a team. We don't get to kind of spend a lot of time together as hosts. So we've decided that for the 500th this year, our celebration show, we're going to do something together as a team. But I can assure you the footage, Nev, it's going to be quite good footage, I think, aren't we, from the day?
I think so, yes, and it should be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to it, actually. So, Chris Marshall was just saying in the chat room, what date is the 500 show going to be? The answer is we don't quite know yet. So we will let you know on the social medias, and also in the chat room, and also on the show too.
But sort of long story short, really, is we decided that for our 500th that we wanted to spend the time together as a team rather than sort of doing like a big meetup event. Because one of the things that was, we were talking about it, talking about the 400th, and the day over at Brooklands was absolutely amazing. We had the best time in the world, but it did suddenly dawn on us that all of us were all in the same room. Even producer John had made it over from where they are and all that kind of thing. We were all, for the first time probably ever, in the same room, and we all got to spend absolutely zero time with each other. So,
bit like a wedding.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we thought we were going to be, so please, don't be. Nobody needs to be offended by this. We all love you very, very dearly, but we decided we were going to be a little bit selfish for our 500th and actually just get together as a team and film some very, very special content that, no doubt, in the coming weeks we will announce what that's going to be all about.
It's very special, really special content. It's going to be very, very exciting indeed what we've got planned for the day. So yeah, going to look forward to that muchly. Especially you, Nick. I know, Nick, you're definitely looking forward very much to what we're going to be doing.
Indeed, I am. Yes, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point, Carlos. Actually, our production team, Nick and John, are such an integral part of the team, and they're behind the scenes keeping us straight all the time. So it'll be nice for really the 7 of us to spend some time together. Well, actually, it'll be 8 of us. All the core podcast team one.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Going to be fun,
and our families too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And families, exactly.
Yeah.
Family time. Family show, Matt, you would say.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Thank you.
Anyway, I don't wish to alarm anyone, but...
No, we are off to somewhere very special soon. I mean, Nev, you've got some quite exciting information on what we've got planned, haven't you?
Yes, you might have heard me talking about the drone summit that we're attending at the RDS in Dublin. That's on the 1st and 2nd of March. And we're going in a day earlier as well. We're doing some other filming the day before elsewhere, which will be quite interesting, so that will be great. We are staying at the Claydon Hotel in Ballsbridge, just on the outskirts of Dublin, but right next to the RDS venue itself. I think Matt might have a picture of the hotel we're staying at as well, which does look really posh, I have to say.
I feel like we're going to a private boarding school of some description.
Yes, it looks like it, doesn't it? Looks like Charterhouse. Or,
It looks like an institution they might lock you up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. Well, as long as it's warm, frankly, Andy, I'll take it right now. 3 square meals a day, that's fine by me.
I've told them I'm not doing the premiering anymore. So,
no, not quite.
That's where we're going to be. But because we're going to be there on Saturday, the 2nd of March, if anyone is around in the area and you would like to meet up with us, we'll be in the hotel there from 6 p.m. In the bar, obviously. So if you fancy a Guinness and a chat and a chance to meet some of us, we shall be there. So if you would like to come along, then drop us a quick note first of all, just so we can check on numbers. It's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and we'll be there in the evening on the 2nd of March at the Claydon Hotel in Ballsbridge. So we're looking forward to that. And also the event as well. That we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes this week, setting up interviews and what have you. So we're going to have stacks of content to be playing out to you in the coming weeks following March. So very much looking forward to that. If you can come along and you're in the area, please do let us know.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you there. And meet up with us and the team. We can obviously have one or two beers in the evening, can't we?
I'm teetotal. I don't know what you're on about.
Oh, Matt's having G&T. Oh no, that's alcoholic, isn't it? Oh yeah,
G&T total.
Quite right. So we're going to start to wrap up the show. Nev, for the benefit of all the listeners who might not know where we're lurking, whereabouts are we?
Oh, yes. So if you want to have a look at any of the socials, Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, just search for Plane Talking UK. You can find us there. The WhatsApp number is +44 757 224 9166. That's +44 757 224 9166 if you want to get in touch with us by that method. Our email address, as I mentioned, is podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and our website is at planetalkinguk.com also. Don't forget we're on YouTube Live, and the chat room's in there as well. A lot of people in there tonight, so really appreciate your company there. And also, of course, you can become a Patreon of the show, or give us some money by PayPal if you want to as well. That's available on the website, so just search planetalkinguk.com and all the details are there.
So quick round robin. Nev, what are you up to next week?
Oh, it's a great question. No flying next week, just a bit of driving around the country. Going to our office in Brighton again next week. Actually going there tomorrow as well. But nothing too major, just general stuff, I would say.
And as my green screen fails, Armando, what are you up to next week?
Let's see. One work flight Sunday going back to Naples, Florida. But other than that, the weather is getting nice and warming up, so I'm hoping to get the biplane all completely dialed in, and I'm hoping to get a couple flights now that it's kind of springtime here in North Carolina. So I'll send in some videos. I won't be on the show next week. I've actually got a field trip with Maddie to a science museum with her school, so I'll be chaperoning 28 small children.
No, thank you.
Probably be the hardest.
No, thank you.
He'll wish he was on the show. Yeah. Nick, what are you doing on two wheels next week?
I'm probably going to have a crack at replacing the headstock bearings in the Ducati.
I beg your pardon?
Wish me luck. Just to reiterate what Nev was saying, emails, if any of our lovely listeners want to get in touch, send us photos, stories, articles, got anything that they want to contribute to the show. It's always great to have that as extra content because, it's all part of what makes the show great is the sort of listener involvement and participation. So, yeah, get in touch, drop us an email.
Very true. Podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Andy, our awesome guest for this evening, back again. Great to have you on. What are you up to next week? Any exciting flights planned?
I'm flying to Tenerife, but as a passenger.
Hey,
unfortunately,
holiday.
It's on one of those Boeing 737 things.
You're going on a Boeing? Very good.
Yes. There's not much choice in that, but I'm very much looking forward to my holiday.
We'll have a lovely trip, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again, as usual.
Great to have you on, as always. And that is where we're going to bring the show to a close. Thanks to all the chat room for tonight for joining us. Great to see all you in there, all the family in there, as always. Don't forget to tune in next Wednesday, 7 o'clock here on YouTube, to join us back for the next show. So, Nev, say goodbye.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much indeed for joining us all tonight. Really appreciate your company. Have a great week and weekend, and we'll see you same time next week. So bye for now.